One here and then one here. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for that. Yes, sir. Right. Right. I mean, I think that's a really good point. And I mean, if you kept trying to till a ground that would never ever produce anything, I mean, you'd never be productive. I mean, the gospel would stall. I mean, so there's a point where you do kind of have to move on, right? Very good. All right. So then we had some conversation last week. I asked a question about, so does this still apply today? And we had some different thoughts about that. I know that Jesus was specifically talking, again, this idea of binding and loosing and enforcing what God has already put into place. And I know that God appointed apostles to do very specific things at a very specific time, and they were gifted to do it in very specific ways. I am not at all suggesting that today the powers and abilities and the authorities that were given to the apostles are still with us today. I'm not saying that. But I do believe that we still today, I mean, God's word still has to be taught. We still have to make decisions about whether or not, someone is accepting that truth or not to gain interest into the kingdom. And I want to draw your attention back to Matthew chapter 18, where Jesus gives some instruction. Now remember where, I just want you to remember now, Matthew 18, and this part of Jesus' ministry, the church has not been built yet, just like it hasn't been built in Matthew 16 that we just read, because he hasn't died yet. But he's still talking about some things about the church. And I want you to notice here, starting in verse 15. Now, 18 is the key, but I want to start with 15 for context. Jesus, in the middle of his teaching, says, "And if your brother sins, go and reprove him in private. If he listens to you, you have won your brother." I know you know this. "But if he does not listen to you, take one or two more with you, so that by the mouth of two or three witnesses every fact may be confirmed. And if he refuses to listen to them," Jesus in verse 17 says, "tell it to the church." Now, the church hasn't even been established yet, but he's giving some instruction about some of the function of the church. He says, tell it to the church. "And if he refuses to listen even to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax gatherer." Listen to verse 18. "Truly I say to you," same words here, "whatever you shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. And whatever you shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. And again I say to you that if two of you agree about anything that they may ask, it shall be done for them by my Father who is in heaven," and so on and so forth. This idea of binding and loosing, again, is this only apostles? Even the church has a role in binding and loosing as it relates to, dealing with sin in the camp, for example. The terms that God has already set about sin, Jesus says here in Matthew 18 that even the church has a role in that as well. And then I would go beyond that to even say again, we still are, the Great Commission applies to us, I believe, as well. It was instructions specifically given to the apostles, but God's word still has to be taken to the lost world.